spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars. Maybe the birds will sing about your heart. Maybe the trees will whisper the word. Maybe the sun will spread your joy to the ones who lost their hope.
Hi friends, welcome to Love and Life's Journey DIY. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new to my channel, my name is Chantel. I live in Idaho with my husband Chris, and I love to do Dollar Tree DIYs and DIYs on a budget. As you can see, I still have winter things behind me because boy is it winter. We got like 14.5 inches of snow this last week. It got down below zero, and I know a lot of you have been dealing with the same thing all across the country here in the US. So I hope you're all staying warm and have been able to dig out of the snow. But I thought it would be fun to do some Valentine DIYs because Valentine's Day is just around the corner. So today I have some really fun and easy Dollar Tree DIYs for Valentine's Day for you. So let's jump in and get started.
For this project, I was inspired by this snowflake that I made last year for winter, and I thought it would be fun to do something similar for Valentine's. For this, I picked up an unfinished wood heart from Dollar Tree, as well as this smaller chunky wood heart. And I'm also going to be using one of these 12-inch dowels. They come in a package of 10 in the Crafter's Square section. And I'm going to be using some of these little wood roses that are in the Valentine section. I'll also be using a little bit of this Waverly Antique Wax. You could use a brown paint or a stain. I'm just going to be staining my wood pieces. I'm going to start by first filling that hole with some hot glue. You could use some wood filler. I like the hot glue because it dries quickly, and if you put like a metal ruler behind it on the right side of your project, once the glue cools, then it just pops right off and you have a nice smooth surface. Now I'm going to take some of my antique wax and I'm watering it down a little bit just because I don't want it to be too dark, and I'm going to stain all of my wood pieces. Once the stain is dry, I am going to find a drill bit that is the same size as my dowel, and I am going to drill into the center of that small chunky heart, just down about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, just so that the dowel will fit down in there and I'll have a place to glue it so it will make it more sturdy. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this super glue, wood glue that I also picked up at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to add just a little dot of hot glue as well, and just put that dowel into the hole and then let that dry thoroughly. Now I'm going to take my little wood roses, and honestly I was not sure how I wanted to embellish this heart. So I just took out all the little wood roses and arranged them in different ways on the heart. I didn't know if I wanted to use the colored heart or colored roses, the red and the pink, or if I just wanted to use all of the natural wood color. And so I just played with it. So you can arrange these however you like. Get creative and just play with it until you find something that you like the look of. So I first pictured just putting the roses all over the heart like this, and I kind of was going to go with something like this with a few of the pink roses mixed in with the natural wood. I kind of like this, but then I found in my stash this little decor piece, and it had the raised wood love word on it, and so I decided just to remove that using this little spatula, and I just did this really carefully so I didn't break it. And I decided to kind of go a different route on my heart and put fewer of the roses on and add this little love word as well. I did want it to show up a little better though, so I am taking some of my chiffon cream chalk paint and just going over that to make it a lighter color. And I really like how this looks, so I'm going to go ahead and attach these roses and the love word just using my hot glue gun. One thing to keep in mind when you fill your hole with hot glue on your piece, it doesn't get covered up by stain. My original plan was to cover it up with one of those wood roses. However, I kind of changed my design, so now I'm using some of this lace ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I'm just making a cute little plain bow to put on that. I think it just gives it a little romantic finishing touch. The last step is to attach the heart to the wooden dowel base, and I'm just using hot glue for this, and just make sure that the point of the heart base is facing forward and that you have that lined up just how you want it. For this project, I am using this little square bank that I found at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be using some of these really pretty pink roses from the Valentine section, as well as this little heart decor piece that I found. And I'm also going to be using some of these little lights that look like gemstones or kind of like pink diamonds. I'm also going to be using some black chalk paint as well as some 100% acetone fingernail polish remover. That's what I'm going to use to get that design off of the front of this bank. So I'm going to remove the back of the frame and carefully remove that paper because I do want to reuse that. And then I'm just going to use a paper towel and some of the fingernail polish remover and scrub that design. And you can see it is coming off, but it is taking a little bit of elbow grease, so I decided to get a razor blade and kind of carefully scrape off the design and then use the acetone to remove the residue that's left. And you can see that that does a real nice job of cleaning up that glass really well. So my plan when I first started this project or had the idea for it was to take the roses and to pull them off the stems and then put them behind the glass as a whole rose. However, these were actually too large for this little frame and the roses were just going to get all scrunched up. So I decided to pull the roses apart and cut the petals apart so that I just had rose petals. And to do this, it really only took, I think, 3 roses, maybe 4, to complete this project. So it doesn't take very many at all doing it this way. Then I took my string of lights and I arranged them so that they were evenly spread out, and I'm using just a little bit of hot glue to tack them down in a couple of places along the edge of the frame just so that it will hold them in place, because when I set this up, the weight of those little acrylic gems will kind of pull the lights down if they're not secured in any way. And because I don't want the wires from my lights to show from the front side of my project, I'm going to take some of the rose petals and I'm going to just tack them to the wires. So I'll just slide the petals kind of underneath the wires since we're working from the back side, and just secure those so that they kind of hide the wires. And one thing to note here is that you do want your light string end to kind of be on the side where the coin slot is, because that's going to be the bottom of our little project here, and we don't want it to show, and so you don't want the wire from the light strand to be coming out of the top of your project. So now I'm going to just start filling in my rose petals all around, and I'm going to fill this up full and make sure all the spaces are covered. And for the ones in the back, you can see I didn't even cut the petals apart because I'm just putting them on the back side. They're not really going to show, they're just filling up the space. So then I'll put the back on my picture and make sure that I like the spacing of the lights and the petals and it all looks good. And then I'm going to attach my battery pack. I'm just going to use some hot glue on this, and I am making sure that the part of the battery pack where you open it to change the batteries is accessible, as well as the switch where you turn them off and on. Now I'm going to take one of those little wood hearts from that decor piece and just separate it from the others, and I'll remove the hanger, and then I'm also going to fill the holes on this, and then I'm just going to use some black chalk paint and give it a good coat of paint. And if you can't find these exact wood hearts, I have seen a lot of different designs of wood hearts in the Valentine section at Dollar Tree. So you can choose any of them that will fit on the front of your frame to do this project with. And I decided just to dry brush a little bit of off-white paint onto this just to kind of go with the frame. I didn't do anything with the frame. I left it exactly the way it came, and it was kind of an off-white and had black dry brushed on it. So I thought just kind of doing the inverse of that would make it coordinate really well. Then I'm just going to center that on the front of the glass and attach it using a little bit of hot glue. And I think this looks really pretty even without the lights on, so it makes a nice decor piece in the evening when you want to have the lights on, or in the daytime when you just want to leave them off. It's beautiful either way. For this next project, I'm going to be using this jumbo craft heart I found at Dollar Tree for just $1.25. That's a great deal. I'll also be using a little bit of this lace ribbon. It looks kind of like crocheted ribbon. And I'm going to be using more of these pink roses. I think these are just so pretty for Valentine's. And for this project, I used a total of 48 roses. I'm going to start by taking a 12-inch piece of the lace ribbon, and I'm going to fold it in half and then glue the ends to the top of the heart with some hot glue so that I have a nice little hanger. Then I'm going to remove all of my roses from the stems. And like I said, I think I used 48 roses for this. So there's 6 on each stem. So you're going to need 8 stems of roses. And I'm going to start at the very top of my heart, and then I'm going to go all along the outside edge of the heart. And I did find it easier to use a stylus, or you can even use a pencil or something, a dowel maybe, to poke a hole down into the styrofoam. And then I just added a little bit of hot glue into the hole to hold those roses in, and then push the stems in. I felt like it was easiest going all the way around the heart on that outside edge and then filling in the center from there. And I did not put any roses on the back of the styrofoam because I want this to be able to hang on the wall kind of flat. And if you put roses on both sides, for one thing, it's going to take a lot of roses, and they're not going to be seen because it's going to be up against the wall, and it's going to hang funny on the wall. So I just left the back of the heart plain. You could paint it if you don't like the white, but like I said, it's not really going to be seen, so I just left mine. And I would just say, don't chintz on the amount of roses that you put in here. You want them to be put in there tightly and close together so that you can't see any of the white styrofoam, and it just makes it look so full and high end. And so for less than $10 I made this, and I saw one on the Wayfair website that was $50. And honestly, I liked the looks of mine better. For this next project, I'm going to use this wall decor piece from Dollar Tree. And just for reference, this one is about 8.5 inches square. I'll also be using 4 of these styrofoam heart picks. They come in various styles in a package, and I'm just using the sticks, so it doesn't really matter what the tops of them look like. Then I'm also going to be using some of these little wooden hearts. And I found these arrows in the crafting aisle, so I'm going to be using one of these as well. And I'm going to be using 10 of the smaller size popsicle sticks or crafting sticks. And for paint, I'm going to be using black and white chalk paint. First, I'm going to take my white chalk paint and I'm going to be painting that inside portion of this wall art, and I decided just to remove it from the frame because I'm going to leave the frame black, and that way I won't have to worry about not getting white paint on it. And I did give mine a couple of coats of paint using my heat tool to dry the coats in between. And while that final coat is drying, I am going to take my same paintbrush with just a very little bit of paint on it and dry brush some white onto the black frame just so it doesn't look so just stark black. If you're not a fan of dry brushing, you could totally leave this the black color. You could even paint it a different color, but you know, if you've watched my channel very long at all, you know I love my dry brushing. Let me know down in the comments, are you a fan or not a fan of dry brushing? And speaking of dry brushing, I am going to take a little bit of black paint and dry brush on that white center portion of the frame that I painted. And I did get a little streak there that's just a little too dark for my liking, so I am going to take some of my white paint and just kind of go over that and lighten it up. So don't worry if you do get a little bit too much, it's just paint. You can even repaint over the whole thing and start over, but don't be afraid to try new techniques and try things with paint, because usually it's not hard to fix. Next, I'm going to take my craft sticks and my miter shears, and I'm going to cut these. I first cut the ends off of the popsicle sticks because they're rounded, and I'm using my miter shears at an angle, so it's cutting an angle. You could cut them straight if you want, but I cut off both of the rounded ends, and then I'm basically kind of cutting them in half. And so I'm doing this so that I have 10 pieces, and they come out to be, I think, about 2.5 inches long. The link to all my favorite crafting tools, including these miter shears, is down in the description box. I highly recommend these. They are great for cutting things like craft sticks and dowels. Then I'm going to paint all of my little sticks using my black chalk paint. I'm going to set those aside to dry. Then I'm going to take my white piece that I painted and put that back into the frame so that I can start adding the embellishments to it. So once again, I will use my little miter shears just to snip off those styrofoam hearts, and then I'm going to be using the sticks to make a little tic-tac-toe board. I love the fact that these are red. I don't have to paint them because that's the color I want them to be, so it makes it super easy. And then I'll just save those little hearts to use in another project. Once I have the sticks laid out so that the spacing looks good to me, I'm going to use a pencil just to mark where they're at so that I know where to put glue down to glue them onto the board. Now I'm going to start adding my hearts and my X's to this, and I actually realized I made one too many X's. I needed 5 X's and I made 6, but I put the 3 hearts in a diagonal row, and then I'm going to put in X's in all of the squares except for the bottom right hand corner where I will put another heart. I'm making mine as a wall decoration, but if you'd wanted to just make the X's and have the X's and the hearts loose so that you could actually use this just for a cute little tic-tac-toe game, that would be great, especially if you have kids or grandkids. They would love that. However, since I am making mine to hang on the wall, I am going to add the arrow to it, and I think I want to use the black arrow. I think it just shows up better than the white one, and so I'm just going to use that and glue it across the 3 hearts that are in the diagonal, and then this piece is done. For this project, I am using 3 of these plastic heart ornaments, and these actually open up so you can fill them with candies or little goodies, but I am going to be using them in a much different way for this project. I'm also going to be using some various colors of yarn that work well for Valentine's. And I picked up one of these cute little baskets that Dollar Tree is carrying now as well. To start off with, I am just going to use a pair of wire cutters to snip off that little plastic hanger at the top of the ornament because I don't want to have that on there. And then I'm going to use some hot glue and my yarn, and I am just going to be wrapping this all around the heart in different directions. Now, when you first start this, you will have to tack it down with hot glue in various places, but once you get a good amount of strands down, then you can wrap it and it will kind of hold itself in place and you won't have to put glue so often. And my goal here is just to get this heart completely covered with the yarn so that you can't see any of the shiny red plastic underneath. So now that it's mostly covered, I will need to kind of be a little more strategic of my placement of my yarn and use my glue to tack it down in those places that need covered. And so this project is not hard, but it does take a little bit of time, but I think it's totally worth it. Once I'm happy with it, I'm just going to add a little hot glue and trim off the end of my yarn. Then I'm going to take a look at it, and if there's anywhere where the yarn is kind of separated and you can see that plastic underneath, I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and put a little bit of glue in there and then just kind of pinch it together so that you aren't able to see the plastic. Then I'm going to repeat this procedure with my other two hearts and the different colors of yarn. This is such an easy project, but I think it is just really sweet for Valentine's. And then I'm just going to arrange my hearts in the little basket. This next project turned out to be one of my favorites, and for this I am using this wood piece from Dollar Tree as well as this wood love sign, and I'm going to be using this little rock painting kit. All of these things are from Dollar Tree. I'll also be using some of these small raised dot stickers. And I'm going to use some white and black chalk paint. And I know here I showed an off-white paint, but I'm actually going to use white for my finished project. And I'm going to be using a couple of colors of craft paint, a couple of shades of pink, as well as a nice pretty green. I'm going to start with this cute love sign from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove the hanger, the jute twine hanger from the back of it, and I am going to leave those little hooks on the back of it in the remote possibility that I want to hang this sign up, but I think when I'm finished with it, I think it'll probably be just something that I sit on a shelf or a table. So now I'm going to take those little raised dot stickers, and they actually come in a strip, which for this project I wish they didn't, but probably for other projects it would be great. But I am going to take them and I'm going to cut each individual dot apart, and then I am going to line them up all the way around that little heart that is the center of the O. Next, I'm going to take my white paint and I'm going to paint my entire sign even over those little beads because I want it all to be white. If you wanted them to be red, then just paint your sign first and then apply your little stickers. I'm thinking you might want to put a little glue on them to help them stick to the paint, though they were pretty sticky with just the adhesive that was on them. I did have one that didn't want to stay on, so I glued it, but the rest of them seemed to stick pretty well just to the wood. And I did paint the whole sign on the edges and the back as well. I did, however, leave the inside of the heart because I am going to paint it a different color. Now I'm going to take that wood piece that I picked up at Dollar Tree and I'm going to paint it with the black chalk paint. While that's drying, I'm going to take this little rock painting kit and I'm going to take the paints that came with it and just throw them away. They were dried out and useless anyway, and that little paintbrush is not really good for a whole lot either. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And I'm going to use my own craft paints and a small little paintbrush to paint this pretty little rock. At first I was going to paint all of the roses this pink color, but I decided to add in a lighter pink color, and so I'm just kind of randomly painting different roses, the two different pink colors. And I am just painting the raised part of the roses, and that way the white kind of shows through and gives it kind of an outline, and I think it makes them show up a little bit better than if I just painted the whole area, because then it would just kind of look like a pink blob. Once I have the roses painted, I'm going to use this light, pretty spring green to paint the leaves. And then I'm going to paint the rest of the rock with my black chalk paint. Next, I'm going to take the darker pink color and I'm going to use that to paint the inside of the heart on the love sign. I really like how this gives it just kind of a subtle pop of color. Then I'm going to lightly dry brush using some black chalk paint over the top of this sign, and this is really going to bring out that heart shape where I put the stickers around that, because the dry brushing is going to go right over the top of that, and it's going to give the letters a little bit more definition because the dry brushing will kind of stick to the edges of the letters, and so I think that the dry brushing really helps with the details of this sign. And then I'm going to take my white chalk paint and dry brush a little bit over that black piece of wood as well. I also decided to take some of those wood roses that I used in the very first project in this video and paint two of them the lighter color of pink and one the darker color of pink that I used on that heart rock. We're going to use these just to kind of tie everything together. And I'll paint the leaves on these the same color of green as well. Then once everything is painted and thoroughly dried, I'm going to put a layer of matte finish Mod Podge over this, or any clear sealer will work. So now I'm just going to lay out everything how I want to assemble it. So I have the love sign on top and then the rock next, the heart-shaped rock next to it. Going to put a couple of those roses on the left side and one on the right side. And then I cut out with my Cricut machine the words never fails. So that I have love never fails, and I'm going to put that here on the black piece of wood on the bottom of my project. Now here's a little tip for you. If you're going to use your Cricut machine, you want to make sure that you're using the wood side or the back side of this wood sign, not the one that has the smooth surface on it. So I should have known better, but I put it on the other side, and when I peeled my transfer paper off, you know what happened. My paint came off with it. And so save yourself the trouble. Make sure you use the back of the wood sign that doesn't have that smooth surface on it to put your vinyl letters on. So now that I have my lettering on, now I can place my little flowers. I'm just going to attach those with some hot glue, 2 on the left side, 1 on the right. Now I'm going to position the love sign and mark where I want to attach it. And so I'm kind of just eyeballing how it's going to look with the heart rock, and then marking with a pencil where I want it to go so that I know where to put my hot glue. I'm going to hot glue the love sign down first, and I'm just adding glue where I put the marks so that it doesn't show once the love sign is attached. So now I need to attach my little heart-shaped rock, and to do this I'm going to be using a craft stick, and so I am going to just take one of these small popsicle sticks and attach it to the back of the E on the love sign, and then that heart's going to get glued to that too. It's just going to help stabilize it. Now that I have my craft stick in place, I'm going to set my rock up there, and I am going to figure out what angle I want it to sit, and then I'm going to put a mark right underneath the point at the bottom of the heart. That way I will know right where to put my hot glue. Then I'll go ahead and add my hot glue to the front of that craft stick and right on that mark that I made, and then just set my little heart-shaped rock right on there and hold it in place until the glue sets up a little bit. For this project, I found this sign at Dollar Tree, and I just really liked the design. I loved the flowers, I liked the colors, and I even didn't really mind the glitter that was on it. But I wanted to elevate it in some way. And I also found this baker's twine that has 3 different colors that are all in this sign. So I picked that up, and we're going to see what we can do with this sign. So I decided that I wanted to cut the letters apart. So I'm using my miter box and saw, and even though the sign is a little bit wider and doesn't lay flat down in the miter box, I can still cut a straight edge with this. I'm just holding it at an angle and making sure that my saw is lined up with the guides. You can also cut these signs apart using a straight edge and a razor knife. It takes a little bit more effort, and you have to press pretty hard and go over it quite a few times, but you can do it. So if you don't have a miter box and saw, that is another way that you can do that. And of course, this is the perfect time to use one of my favorite crafting tools, my little cordless rechargeable vacuum. This is perfect for sawdust, for glitter, for all kinds of things. And if you do a lot of crafting, you would love having one of these. I think they're less than like $15, and I use mine all the time. So it just picks up things so well, and then you can just empty it right out and recharge it, and it holds a charge for a long time. So I love mine. I highly recommend it. Now that I have my letters cut apart, I'm going to stack them up, and I am going to mark on the top corners where I want to drill a hole, because I want to be able to string these up kind of like a banner. And so I'm just going to mark on the top one, and then I will use a drill and drill bit to drill through them to make holes in all 4 letters. Next, I'm going to paint the backs of my letters using white chalk paint, and this is just to give it a nice finished look. And I'm not going to paint the edges of the signs though, because I'm going to add some of that baker's twine around the edges of the signs just to give it a more unique finish. So I'm going to wrap my baker's twine around the edge of the letters, and I'm going to be attaching it with a little bit of hot glue, and you want to be careful not to get too much because it can get messy looking real quick if you get too much glue. So I'm just going to use a very little bit to tack it down as I go, and I'm going to wrap the twine around 3 times to cover the edges of the letters, and I'm using a different color of twine on each letter. This is definitely a little more time consuming than just painting the edges, but I really like the texture and just the uniqueness that it adds to this project. Once I have all my letters wrapped with the baker's twine, then I am going to take a little bit heavier of a string. You could use ribbon or any type of cord that you have, but I'm just going to use the string that I had on hand and put it through the holes so that the string is on the back side of the letters, and just hang it up like a banner. I hope you enjoyed all of these Valentine's projects. If you did, please hit that like button. It really helps other people to see this video, and it helps my channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps me out a lot. And don't forget to hit the bell and set your notifications so that YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day.